Right now, in emergency departments around the world, over 90% of elderly patients who present with a swollen leg, well, they undergo expensive imaging.
Right, and the vast majority of those compression ultrasonography scans are completely unnecessary.
Exactly. And you face this exact scenario every single day. I mean, a patient presents with a suspected lower limb deep vein thrombosis, and you obviously want to make a safe clinical decision.
But you also want to protect your hospital resources at the same time.
Yeah, so how do you safely rule out lower limb deep vein thrombosis in outpatients, without ordering all this unnecessary imaging?
Well, you shift from a fixed diagnostic threshold to an age-adjusted formula. You basically update how you interpret their blood test results.
We are talking about the D-dimer blood test,
Yeah.
by the way. What exactly does this diagnostic test measure again?
So the D-dimer test measures specific protein fragments in the blood. Your body naturally produces these fragments when a blood clot dissolves. It suggests a clot is actively breaking down somewhere in the vascular system.
Got it. So what is the standard diagnostic practice right now in the emergency department? Like, what are most providers doing?
Providers currently rely on a single, very rigid number. The conventional fixed cutoff value is exactly 500 micrograms per liter.
Okay, so let's say a patient comes in, their D-dimer test result is 499 micrograms per liter. What happens next?
Well, in that case, you confidently rule out the blood clot. You just discharge the patient.
But if their result comes back at, say, 501 micrograms per liter, what happens then?
Then you must order a lower limb compression ultrasonography. I mean, you cannot send them home.
Wow. That feels incredibly rigid. It kind of ignores biological reality entirely, doesn't it?
It is very rigid. Using a fixed cutoff is like, it's like enforcing a strict 30-mile-per-hour speed limit on every single road.
Right.
It completely ignores the actual driving conditions.
So what is the proposed age-adjusted formula to replace this outdated standard?
You basically multiply the patient's exact age in years by 10 micrograms per liter. But you only applied this specific formula to patients who are 50 years and older.
How does that look in practice?
Yeah.
Give me an example with an 82-year-old patient.
Sure. You take their age, you multiply 82 by 10, and their new personalized diagnostic cutoff becomes 820 micrograms per liter.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, do providers apply this age-adjusted threshold just in isolation?
No, absolutely not. You must always pair the formula with a clinical pretest probability.
Okay, so they're using a scoring system.
Yes. Providers typically use the Wells score to determine this clinical probability.
Right, the Wells score, which basically represents the provider's clinical hunch, right? It uses a checklist of physical symptoms.
Exactly.
It looks for things like leg swelling or previous clots just to gauge the actual likelihood of a deep vein thrombosis before you even draw blood. So what must that pretest probability be to actually use the formula?
The probability must be classified as low.
Okay.
Or it can be classified as intermediate. It can also be classified as unlikely.
But what if the patient has a massively swollen leg and severe pain? Like, they clearly have a high pretest probability. What do you do then?
You do not rely on blood tests at all in that case. You send them straight to the imaging department.
So no formula for them?
No. The formula is strictly reserved for low, intermediate, or unlikely probabilities.
Okay, so we really need to look at the exact target population for this data. This analysis covers outpatients presenting directly to emergency departments, right?
Yes. Patients who are 18 years and older, and the data spans 27 clinical centers across Belgium, Canada, France, and Switzerland.
Awesome. But before we get into the safety numbers, who is entirely excluded from this new diagnostic pathway? Like, who cannot use this?
Pregnant patients are completely excluded.
Why do we exclude pregnant patients? What is the underlying physiological mechanism there?
Well, pregnancy fundamentally alters the entire cardiovascular system. I mean, blood volume increases drastically.
Right.
And the baseline state of coagulation changes to prepare the body for childbirth.
So the normal rules just do not apply.
Exactly. These physiological shifts make standard D-dimer algorithms highly unreliable.
Okay, who else cannot use this formula?
You cannot apply this formula to patients currently receiving anticoagulation therapy.
How come? Like, how do blood thinners interfere with the D-dimer test?
So anticoagulation therapy actively suppresses the formation and breakdown of blood clots. It artificially lowers the exact protein fragments that the test is trying to measure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the blood test loses its diagnostic value completely.
That makes sense. Is there a third excluded category?
Yes. Patients presenting with concurrent symptoms of pulmonary embolism are entirely excluded.
Why exclude them, though? I mean, a pulmonary embolism is just a blood clot that traveled to the lungs, right?
True, but this specific diagnostic pathway is validated exclusively for suspected lower limb blood clots. Suspected pulmonary embolism requires its own dedicated diagnostic track because the mortality risk profile is entirely different.
Okay, so now we know the exact clinical boundaries.
Right.
The immediate question you have to ask is about safety. Is it actually safe to just ignore mildly elevated D-dimer levels in older adults?
Well, you have to understand why older adults naturally have higher levels of this blood marker in the first place.
Why is that?
As human beings age, our bodies enter a constant state of low-level inflammation and vascular repair. So the biological aging process naturally produces more of these protein fragments over time.
I see. So using a 20-year-old's baseline for an 80-year-old makes absolutely no clinical sense.
Exactly. It expects an aging cardiovascular system to look perfectly pristine, and that is biologically impossible.
Right. I want to look closely at the data now. Let's talk about the patients caught in the diagnostic gap.
Okay.
I mean, these are the patients with D-dimer levels between the old 500 micrograms per liter cutoff and their new higher age-adjusted cutoff.
Right. So under the old fixed rules, these patients fail the blood test. They must get a lower limb compression ultrasonography. But under the new age-adjusted rules, they actually pass the blood test and are safely discharged.
So how many patients fell exactly into this analytical zone during the study?
The researchers isolated exactly 161 patients in this diagnostic gap.
Wait, I need to push back here.
Sure.
If I am an emergency department provider and my patient fails the traditional 500 micrograms per liter test, my instinct is to scan them immediately. You are telling me to trust this new math and just send 161 patients home without a span. That feels incredibly risky.
It definitely feels risky to providers. And that is exactly why this specific safety data is so essential. The researchers sent all 161 patients home without a compression ultrasonography.
Just based on the new math.
Yes. They rely purely on the age-adjusted formula.
So what exactly happened to those 161 patients? How many of them actually developed confirmed symptomatic venous thromboembolic events?
0 patients.
Wait, really? Not a single patient developed a blood clot?
0. The researchers tracked every single patient over a full 3-month follow-up period. The clinical failure rate was exactly 0.0%.
Okay, but we need to examine the mathematical variance. You cannot just celebrate an absolute zero in clinical research without looking at the confidence intervals.
Right.
What is the 95% confidence interval for that 0% failure rate?
The 95% confidence interval ranged from 0.0% to 2.3%.
So why does that upper limit of 2.3% matter to the healthcare provider listening right now? Like, what does that practically mean for them?
It defines your absolute worst-case scenario. The statistical models guarantee with 95% confidence that the true clinical failure rate will never exceed 2.3%.
And what was the predefined safety validation benchmark for this analysis?
Well, international clinical benchmarks require a failure rate strictly lower than 3%.
Oh, wow. Okay, so your statistical worst-case scenario is 2.3%, and the mandatory safety ceiling is 3%.
Yes. The data easily cleared the safety benchmark. I mean, it proves mathematically that dynamically raising the diagnostic threshold does not put older patients in danger.
That is incredibly reassuring. So since the safety profile is validated at a 0.0% failure rate, I guess the next logical question is efficiency. Does this formula actually save hospital resources?
Oh, absolutely. It drastically reduces operational waste in the emergency department.
How much unnecessary imaging do you actually avoid across the entire patient group over 50 years old? Give me the numbers.
You gain a 7.4% absolute increase in patients safely avoiding lower limb compression ultrasonography.
And what is the 95% confidence interval for that 7.4% absolute increase?
The confidence interval ranges from 6.4% to 8.6%.
Got it. What does that look like as a relative increase, though?
You see a massive 23.3% relative increase in patients safely skipping the imaging scan.
That is huge. Let us connect this back to your speed limit analogy from earlier. Does the efficiency benefit scale up as a patient gets older and their natural baseline levels rise?
Yes, it does. The efficiency benefit scales up dramatically for the oldest patients. I mean, we really must analyze the specific subgroup of patients who are 75 years and older.
Because older adults suffer the most under the old fixed threshold rules, right?
Exactly.
So how many elderly patients get cleared without a scan using the standard 500 micrograms per liter threshold?
Under the old rules, only 8.7% of patients 75 years and older get cleared using the standard fixed threshold.
Wow. That is completely inefficient. That means over 91% of patients 75 and older are forced to undergo compression ultrasonography.
Yeah, it creates a massive bottleneck. It just floods the imaging department with healthy older adults.
Okay, now apply the new age-adjusted formula to that exact same elderly group. How many patients 75 and older get cleared without a scan now?
Using the new formula, negative diagnostic findings rise from 8.7% up to 26.1%.
Wait, you tripled the operational efficiency. You safely discharged 3 times as many elderly patients without requiring an ultrasound.
Yes, exactly 3 times as many.
But did this massive increase in efficiency cause any misdiagnoses? Like, how many false negatives occurred in this specific 75 and older subgroup?
0 false negatives occurred. So you gain a massive operational advantage and you sacrifice absolutely 0 patient safety.
Man, these efficiency numbers look fantastic. However, we really must aggressively interrogate the methodology before providers go and change their daily clinical practice. Where is the data strong and where is it weak?
You should always question the methodology behind the numbers.
So why should providers trust this specific safety data?
Because the structural design demonstrates incredibly high internal validity.
What specific mechanism creates that high internal validity? How did they set it up?
The researchers utilized an independent adjudication committee.
Okay, what is the exact function of this committee?
This committee independently reviewed all suspected medical events and all patient deaths during the entire 3-month follow-up period.
Did the committee know the patient's initial D-dimer blood test results during their review? Like, did they have access to that?
No, not at all. The committee was completely blinded to all initial blood test results.
Why is blinding the committee so essential for the integrity of the data?
Because it completely eliminates detection bias. A blinded committee cannot let preliminary blood numbers influence their final clinical judgment. They evaluate the concrete clinical reality of the patient outcome and absolutely nothing else.
That makes sense. What about the laboratory machinery? Did the researchers run all these blood tests on one identical piece of proprietary hospital equipment?
No, actually. The 27 clinical centers utilized 11 different commercial high-sensitivity diagnostic assays.
Using 11 different machines sounds kind of messy. Why is that a scientific strength instead of a weakness?
Well, it proves the results are highly generalizable to your specific hospital laboratory. The age-adjusted formula works accurately across multiple standard testing platforms.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you do not need highly specialized equipment to replicate these exact safety outcomes in your own emergency department.
Okay, but I am looking at the actual compliance numbers from the emergency departments during this study, and I see major protocol deviations. It looks like providers actively ignore the mathematical algorithm.
Yes, that is objectively true.
Look at the standard management group. Providers ordered compression ultrasonography for 185 out of 531 patients who had completely negative blood tests.
Right. They had a negative D-dimer test under the old rules, but they still received a scan anyway.
And it gets even worse in the intervention group. Providers ordered compression ultrasonography for 94 out of 161 patients in the age-adjusted group, despite negative diagnostic findings. Why do providers lack so much trust in this formula?
Well, this behavior is actually a documented psychological phenomenon. It is called management bias.
Explain the psychology of management bias to our listeners. What is going through the provider's head?
Providers experience extreme anxiety when adopting new diagnostic algorithms. So imagine you were treating an 80-year-old patient. You calculate their new threshold at 800 micrograms per liter, and their test comes back at 750 micrograms per liter. The formula says they are perfectly clear.
But that numeric value of 750 is still much higher than the old 500 limit that the provider trained on for decades.
Exactly. The provider experiences diagnostic panic. They feel highly uncomfortable discharging the patient, so they just order the compression ultrasonography anyway to protect themselves legally and emotionally.
Interesting. But what did the imaging department actually find in those 94 extra scans from the age-adjusted group? Did they catch any hidden blood clots that the formula missed?
They found 0 proximal deep vein thrombosis. The mathematical algorithm was entirely correct. The provider anxiety was clinically unfounded.
Wow. Still, we must discuss the scientific flaws. What are the structural limitations of this analysis that people need to know about?
The analysis relied on a non-randomized observational design.
And what does an observational design lack?
It lacks a synchronous parallel control group. The researchers did not evaluate a simultaneous control group managed strictly with the 500 micrograms per liter cutoff. Instead, they compared the new intervention data directly against historical safety standards.
Are there demographic limitations within the patient pool as well?
Yes, there are. The analyzed patient sample skewed slightly younger than historical pulmonary embolism cohorts.
How does a younger patient sample limit the power of the findings?
Well, remember the core rule of the intervention. The formula only applies to patients 50 years and older.
Right.
So a younger overall sample mathematically restricts the total number of eligible patients, and this limits the statistical power within very specific elderly subgroups.
Got it. Okay, so we need to synthesize all this safety and efficiency data into an actionable recommendation. What is the final recommendation for the healthcare provider listening right now?
Confidently adopt this unified age adjustment protocol in your emergency department. Just stop using the fixed 500 micrograms per liter threshold for older adults.
Why should a provider feel completely comfortable making this systemic change today?
Because this protocol matches the well-established guideline strategy already used globally for pulmonary embolism. It is mathematically identical to a diagnostic system you already trust and use.
And what direct operational benefits will providers see in their daily clinical practice?
It immediately streamlines your diagnostic pathways. It measurably reduces your emergency department length of stay. And it effectively prevents unnecessary compression ultrasonography.
Are there absolute clinical warnings providers must obey? Like, where should they never apply this formula?
You should never extrapolate these safety findings to atypical thrombosis locations.
Give me specific anatomical examples of atypical locations.
Do not use this formula if you suspect clots in upper extremity veins. And do not use this formula if you suspect clots in cerebral veins. This data exclusively provides safety validation for lower limb deep vein thrombosis.